Let it never be said that Donald Trump is anything except for consistent when it comes to two key things: hypocrisy and, most commonly, being the pot calling the kettle black. And in this breaking story, I'd like to try to laugh about it, but it's not funny. It's not funny at all, especially when, as we've seen, what Trump calls intelligent or expert is the way he looks at himself in the mirror, and he's anything but. But since his day one, he has basically won this election on two things: immigration and the woke DEI stuff. And yet, never let it be said that Donald Trump's desire for power, desire for love and applause gets in the way of any form of empathy, especially when it comes to air traffic controllers, air safety, and the FAA. Remember this right after the tragic crash in D.C. at Ronald Reagan Airport over the Potomac? Take a quick listen.
After brief condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones, this is what the news conference turned into. Watch.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to only the highest aptitude to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence.
Aaron, the president wasted no time tying this to the previous administration's policies. He punctuated his own opposition to diversity, equity, and inclusion policy positions. Do we know for sure that if the error that led to this tragedy had any root in DEI policies?
The short answer is no, and President Trump was asked how he came to that conclusion later on in the press conference, and he said it's, quote, common sense. What President Trump was referring to earlier in the conference, the claim that the FAA during the Biden administration hired 3 individuals with, quote, serious infirmities that could impact their job, and said he does not want the FAA to hire people with, quote, severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. Again, we have no proof or evidence that had anything to do with the crash last night.
And yet, don't you always find it strange, as we do in this breaking story, that Donald Trump's form of expertise and high intellect, oddly, never seems to be anyone other than someone with the skin pigmentation of me. And in this breaking story, the GOP, Trump, and all of the sycophants never care how much you falsify your resume or what kind of a screw-up you may be. As Chris Rock once said, as long as it's white, it's all right. And watch this breaking story when it comes to the new person that's going to head up the FAA and the stone-cold lie of credentials. Here it is. Breaking news: Trump's FAA pick has claimed commercial pilot license he doesn't have. President Donald Trump's nominee to head the Federal Aviation Administration long described himself in his official biography as being certified to fly aircraft commercially, but records examined by Politico show that he does not hold any commercial license. Brian Bedford's biography at Republic Airways, the regional airline where he has been CEO since 1999, said until Thursday that he holds commercial multi-engine and instrument ratings. By Friday, after Politico's inquiries, the word commercial had been removed. The FAA registry that houses data on pilots' licenses does not list any such commercial credentials for Bedford. Bedford is a licensed private pilot, the FAA records show, and has attained additional credentials allowing him to fly in a variety of specialized circumstances, including operating multi-engine planes and piloting at night or in bad weather. He has passed, in quotes, written and oral exams for becoming a commercial airline pilot, the Transportation Department said in a statement, adding that Bedford had not personally nor publicly claimed to be a commercial airline pilot. DOT defended Bedford, who would be the latest in a string of licensed pilots confirmed to lead the aviation agency. The Senate Commerce Committee held a hearing on his nomination earlier this week. In quotes, Brian never misrepresented his credential. It was an administrative error that was immediately corrected, DOT said in a statement. The agency did not respond to questions about what the error was or how it had been fixed. The FAA issues various forms of commercial pilot ratings, including a commercial privileges certificate that allows pilots to fly people or goods for hire, such as cargo planes, small propeller aircraft, or charter flights. Working as an airline pilot requires someone to hold a more rigorous commercial rating, designating them as an air transport pilot, which requires extensive flight hours, among other things. In quotes, you cannot get a commercial rating without having gone through and taken those tests, Pleasant said after being asked to comment on the pilot licensing process and testing criteria. He was not addressing any specific questions regarding Bedford's credentials. In quotes, it's like saying you're a medical doctor, but you haven't finished medical school. In a statement, DOT said that Bedford had never claimed to be a commercial airline pilot and added that he passed written and oral exams needed to be licensed to fly commercially. During a question and answer portion of his appearance, Bedford said he had decided to pursue pilot training after going through an intense period of union negotiations where labor insisted that he didn't understand what it meant to be an airline pilot. Bedford said, in quotes, when I was in Minnesota between 1994-97, I went through private instrument multi-engine commercial, and by the time we got our next labor negotiation 3 years later, I had all my ratings and I'd actually been flying some of our turbine airplanes around, Bedford said. Democrats at the hearing pressed Bedford on other issues related to public safety, including whether he would scale back the FAA's requirement that people seeking to become airline pilots log at least 1,500 hours of flight time, a rule that Republic requested an exemption from in 2022. None of them brought up his pilot's credentials. In quotes, I am less worried about that than I am more worried about the fact that in his previous role at Republic Airways, he pushed very hard to degrade the 1,500-hour rule. Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, the Commerce Committee's top Democrat, said when asked about the credentials issue call during a call with reporters Tuesday. However, the claim that Bedford holds a commercial rating still appeared as of Thursday on the Republic website's Board of Directors page. By Friday, the reference had been scrubbed. As of Friday, similar language also remained in a biography section for Bedford at the Regional Airlines Association Trade Group website. When asked about possible questions on Bedford's biography after Wednesday hearing, Senator Andy Kim, Democrat of New Jersey, told a reporter he, in quotes, heard about that and that his team did flag that. We are doing just sort of an extensive look, not just at his policies, but just sort of his background as well, he said. So I haven't made a determination yet, but it is something that he is examining, Kim said. As it seems to be in stories like these, and it will not stop with Donald Trump, there's just nothing else to say. Another administrative error, kind of like the administrative error they claimed existed when they quickly, without due process, illegally deported Alberto Borrego Garcia to a prison in El Salvador. Same administrative error. Don't think for 1 second that won't be the last administrative error when it comes to one of Danny Donnie's favorite people in white clothing, or rather skin, and someone in his White House or his universe that's more expert or smarter than someone of color. You guys stay frosty.